Hey guys, in this video I'll show you how to animate a hand typing in After Effects. So without further ado, let's get started. First I will walk you through the design layers. Here you can see the keyboard keys on a separate layer, along with the keyboard bodies in the separate layer. Let's hide the line layers here, which are meant for the coding animation. We are not going to animate those lines in this video, but you can download the source file from my Patreon. Link is in the description below. Now let's take a look at the fingers. Each one is on its own layer, and I have separated the upper and the lower parts of each fingers for easier animation. Let's focus on the index finger. It's designed using a circular joint. As you can see, when I place the rotation anchor point in the center of the circle and rotate it, you will notice how it bends smoothly. I have applied the same method to all the fingers, so they all use circular joints for smooth bending. Additionally, I have added a gradient color to the back fingers to enhance depth and shadows. That's the basic layering setup you will need to know before we dive into the After Effects. Let's go ahead and start animating. First, let's import the design file into After Effects. I'm going to quickly select the layers of the fingers and keyboard keys and create a new composition for this. I'm going to call this composition as hand and keyboard. Now let's go inside the composition. I'll also change the label color for the hand layers to keep things organized. Next, select the hand layers and press T to bring up the opacity properties. Let's change the opacity value to 70 and press U to hide the properties. Now we will start by positioning the anchor points. Zoom into the finger area and solo the layers for the little finger. Select the anchor point tool and place the anchor point in the center of the circle. Then press R to open the rotation property and adjust the rotation value. As you can see, the upper little finger aligns nicely with the joint. Now place the anchor point for the lower little finger in the correct position. Repeat this process for all the other fingers as well. We also have the forearm and hand layers. Let's rename the hand layers for clarity. Now using the anchor point tool, select the hand layer and position the anchor point at the center of the hands joint. For the forearm, place the anchor point in the appropriate position as well. With the anchor point set, let's select all the hand layers and restore the opacity back to 100. Now it's time to parent the layers. Start by selecting the upper index finger and parent it to the lower index finger. Open the rotation properties and adjust the value to check the joint movement. Everything looks good, so reset the value to 0. Now parent the upper part of each finger to its corresponding lower part. Once that's done, select all the lower finger layers and parent them to the hand layer. Finally, parent the hand layer to the forearm layer. Now the parenting is completed. Select the forearm layer and position it correctly where the hand will be for the typing action. Now let's start animating. I will use 1 second for each finger to press a key on the keyboard. First, select the index finger and press R to reveal the rotation properties. Create a keyframe at the start and another at the end of the second. Now go to the half a second mark and adjust the rotation value to position the finger over the key. You will notice it's moving slowly, but later we will use time remapping to adjust the speed of the entire movement. Next, move to the second and repeat the process for the other fingers. making sure each one is positioned over a different random keys. As you can see, the fingers move one after the other, starting with the index finger, followed by the middle, ring and the little fingers. To create a more organic movement, let's reorder the keyframes of the fingers. Since each finger's movement takes 1 second, it's easy to adjust the keyframes. Now select the hand layer and open the rotation properties. Create a keyframe at the start, go to the half a second mark and slightly rotate the hand down. Then go to the end of the second and reset the value to 0. Repeat this for each finger, adjusting the rotation value slightly for a more natural and organic movement. Everything is moving smoothly without any jerks, but it's still too slow. As I mentioned earlier, we'll fix the speed once the animation is complete. Now select the forearm layer and open the position properties. Create a keyframe at the start, go to the half a second mark and move the position slightly, ensuring the fingertips touches the key. Then go to the end of the second and copy and paste the first keyframe to return the position to the start. Apply this to the other fingers, ensuring that each fingertip aligns with the key. That's it. As you can see, the first and the last key positions are identical, which will help us loop the animation perfectly. Now select all the keyframes and apply Easy Ease. Let's play it back and see the result. It's looking great, I hope. To extend the typing animation, we can copy and paste the same keyframes, but I'm going to apply the loop out expression. For this, we need to create dummy keyframes to close the gap between the start and end. Wherever keyframes are missing, simply add keyframes like this, and now we can apply the loop out script. Go to the position properties, hold Alt on your keyboard and click on the stopwatch icon. Type loop out into the expression field. I'll copy this expression and apply it to all the keyframe properties. Now the animation is perfectly looping. If you notice, the upper finger don't move unless they are typing, right? So to add some subtle dynamics, I'm going to apply a simple wiggle expression. This will make the animation smoother and more dynamic. Let's start by selecting the upper index finger, drop down the rotation properties and type wiggle open bracket 1,20 close bracket. So the first number controls the speed and the second number defines how far it moves. As you can see, there's a slight continuous movement on the upper finger, creating a more organic motion. Now let's apply the same expression to the other upper fingers. But this time, I will increase the speed and distance. Notice the difference. The movement is too exaggerated, right? So let's change it back to wiggle 1,20. I'll quickly apply the same expression to the other fingers. You can always twist these values to suit your design better. The hand typing animation is almost complete, but the thumb isn't moving at all, right? Let's fix that. The thumb is part of the hand layer, so let's select the hand layer and convert it to vector shape layer. Open the content properties and you will see that each shape is in its own group. However, there is an extra rectangular shape within a group that we don't need. To remove it, type group 1 in the search bar, which will filter out the groups containing group 1. Select the group 1 and delete it. Now only the shapes we need are visible. Next, let's adjust the thumb's path. Type path in the search bar and create keyframes for all the path properties. Press U to reveal only the keyframes and move them to the right position. Now move forward half a second and select the thumb's path points and adjust the fingertips slightly using the point curve graph. Just a small changes is enough. Now create a dummy keyframe for all the other path shapes as well. This looks pretty good. Now move forward and copy paste the first keyframes to create a loop. You can either repeat this movement for each second interval or adjust it manually to match the hand movement. Here I am keeping it simple by repeating the same motion. We are almost done with the hand typing animation. Let's select all the hand layers and create a composition. I will name this composition left hand typing. As you can see, it's still moving slowly, right? Like I mentioned earlier, we will fix this by applying time remapping. Let's bring the last keyframe closer to speed up the typing animation. Now the movement looks much faster and smoother. To loop the animation, as we did before, we will use the loop out expression. Hold Alt and click on the time remap property, then type loop out. Now we can let this animation run for as long as we need. Lastly, let's duplicate the composition by pressing Ctrl D, go to the transform and select flip horizontal to mirror the movement for the other hand. As you can see, both hands are typing the same way since we duplicated the composition. If you want to change the finger movement for other hand, go to the project panel, select the composition and press Ctrl D to duplicate it. I'm going to quickly rename this new composition to right hand typing. Now in the timeline panel, select the composition you want to use for the right hand, then go to the project panel, drag the right hand typing composition and drop it on top of the selected composition in the timeline. You can now go inside this composition and adjust the keyframes. However, instead of doing that, I will simply offset the right hand composition like this. With that, the typing animation is complete, simple and effective. Now let's work on the keyboard highlights. Select the keys layer, convert it to the vector shape layer and hide the original layer. You will notice that this shape layer also contains a rectangular shape within the group. Let's quickly clean this up. Select the layer, type group 1 in the search bar. Now hold Ctrl and select all the group 1 shapes, then delete them. Now you will be able to select each individual key group directly from the composition. Next, let's adjust the timeline to make it easier to access the key shapes in the layer. Move the timeline indicator to where finger touches a key. Then select the key directly on the composition. When selected, the corresponding group for that key will be highlighted in the layer group. Go to the fill property and create a keyframe for the color. Move to the next frame and change the color to something close to the white. Then after a couple of frames, create another keyframes to keep the highlight for a fractions of second. Move to the next frame and change the color back to blue, or simply copy the first keyframe and paste it here. As the finger presses the key, you will see the highlights on the key nicely. I'm going to copy these keyframes and minimize the group. Now move the timeline forward to find the next point where a finger touches a key. Select a random group first, then click directly on the key under the fingertip in the composition. Go to the group property, click on the fill color and press Ctrl V to paste the copied keyframes. Just adjust the keyframes to match the movement when the fingertip touches the key. I'm going to speed up the process as you have already seen how it works. And that's it, we have completed the typing animation. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and it helped you gain some useful knowledge. You can download the design file from the description and practice on your own. See you in the next video.